things you should know if you're thinking about renting or buying a home. If you don't have skills and are not able to do mechanical and handiwork, you're going to have an issue because you have to maintain that home. And even though some things are considered the landlord's responsibility, there's a lot that goes with it, especially along the lines of emergencies happening and situations where stuff breaks or something happens as if it's on a weekend or at night and no one can get out there. You're going to have to get your ass out there and do it yourself. And you're going to have to learn. And, there's things like plumbing, basic electricity, carpentry, simple upkeep like caulking and painting, and using a screw gun, and yard work. All these things are necessary to maintain the property. Because if you don't do that, then what happens is the property gets compromised, and so does your ability to continue to live there in comfort. And not everything is the landlord's responsibility. So, in many cases, even to this day, the majority of this kind of work is done by males. And then there has to be a balance too, because that work doesn't come easy. And it's very taxing on the human body as we use our bodies to do this work. So if you have a partner and you're thinking about renting a house with them, you must consider all this. Because then you could balance that out by helping that person doing other things to make their life easy. Because often when you do this kind of work, it's hard to stop and cook food. It's hard to get drinks. It's hard to cool off, and it's hard to clean up on the inside sometimes, because sometimes you need to wake up at the crack of dawn to get stuff done by the evening, so this way the rain or weather or darkness doesn't hinder you. And these are real aspects, so it takes a partnership too. And in another respect, for landlords, not everybody that owns a house is rich. And not everybody that got a house inherited, it didn't all come from somebody that pirated and stole something. A lot of these people busted their butts to get somewhere in life and make it happen. And it's very important. So you can't blame the landlord. And if you're dissatisfied and there's things breaking, and you decide not to pay your rent, or you can't pay your rent, don't assume that the landlord is the one responsible and it's their fault, and then destroy the house and leave it. Because then, some of these landlords, they actually are depending on that money because they're trying to keep the house, and, it's not fair to them. So you really need to take this into perspective when dealing with stuff. And, it all comes with a grain of salt, and there's a lot of variables, but, before you accept or try to rent a house or buy a house, think about these things. And, if you have finances and funding and available monies there to pay for stuff, hiring a professional is a good thing because it supports the community, but it also costs a lot of money at times because the market rate for things in some areas is astronomical, even though the housing prices and the rented prices are affordable. And most people don't understand this, And also, you have to have respect for the neighbors in the neighborhood too, because that's the reason why you went there in the first place. These are variables and these are aspects that you must consider. I see a lot of people that get into these situations and they really don't know how to handle it. And you can save yourself a lot of trouble by actually guiding your life in the right direction for what means you have and you can afford to do, instead of putting yourself in a situation that's going to be tumultuous and put you in desperation if you have to move or you have a problem. And you really need to consider this, because that's what it's about. And at the end of the day, we all just want to be happy. So if you can't assume and accept the responsibilities, then really what's going on is you're acting on ignorance and you're depending on the circumstances to allow you to skate by without thinking about it. And that's a bad thing too. You don't want to do that. And you especially don't want to hate your landlord. There are landlords that are problematic and stuff, but you can't just assume that's all of them. And take that with a grain of salt and enjoy your life. And I hope you have a happy home.